How to raise your child. And I believe we've spoken about this in the past also. In some sense, the discussion, making it a discussion, even creating a topic called child raising, feels a little artificial and contrived. What do you mean child raising? If a child lives in your house, you're raising the child. It's not a project. It's not something you can either do or not do. It's not something you forget to do a few days out of the week, and those days you were not raising your child. You're raising your child. Lives in your house, you're raising him. If you ignore him, then you're raising him with neglect. But that's your So raising your children is a involuntary, ongoing aspect of life, not some kind of a project that we have to sit and plan or scheme about. So to some degree, just the fact that we even sit down to talk about it or have a lecture on the subject is harmful, because it makes it sound like some kind of special project. And of course it's not. Having children is part of life, and the way you live your life, that's how you raise your children. Of course, there are certain good ideas, helpful ideas on how to communicate, how to convey a message in its most effective way. You can do it better, you could do it worse, but you're doing it all the time. So just to back up a little bit and put the whole thing in perspective. Let's say in the olden days, a father would go out to work in the fields, and he would take his son with him. Not that the son can help, he's still a child. But that's how life was lived. When you went out to work, you took your child with you. On the horse, on the plow, wherever. The result was that a child learned about life by living it with his father or with his mother. School messed everything up. When people invented schools, they ruined everything. Because all of a sudden, children weren't spending time with their mother or father. They were sitting in a classroom reading books. When that became the major activity in a child's life for the most of the years of his childhood, something unnatural happened. The child doesn't know what life is. The child doesn't know the life of the parents. And in some way they became estranged from their family, from their parents, and live a life according to a writer, according to a book, according to a theory. Not a very healthy or happy way. As a result, raising children did become a topic, an activity. So when parents decide that they're going to be good parents, they start to do things that are not real. You have to buy your child toys. That's not natural. Children make their own toys. Children have their own fantasies. Adults, parents, creating fantasies for the children, there's something not right about that. First of all, you're usurping their role. And secondly, who says that adult fantasy is healthy for children? Keep your fantasies to yourself. So Disney World and Disney movies, and I don't know, is that good for children? Or is that really entertaining the adults? What has happened recently is that good parents, well-intentioned parents, devoted parents, mothers who will not go to work because they're stay-home mothers, what they actually do is they live their life and their day around the child. The child does not get to see adult life. The adult is living the child's life. You cater to the child. You get involved in the child's activities. You lower yourself to the child's level and live his life with him. And that's considered a devoted parent. Good parent. The way it really should be is, you live your life. And if you believe that the life you live is right and good, make sure your children are following. So just look back every now and then to make sure that they're still there and you haven't left them in the dust. But if you're not living a life worth living, and you're going to give your children a life, this is artificial. So you can't create the child's life other than letting him live your life. Adults should be busy living, should have an exciting life, should have a meaningful life, and children should run to keep up. That's the natural way of raising children. Every now and then, you have to stop and explain to the child what your life is all about, not tell the child how to live his life. Does this make sense? So instructing children doesn't mean tell them to go do things. They don't like that. They don't buy it. Instructing children means, now you've seen me behave this way or do these things, or let me tell you what it's about. Let me explain to you what I'm doing and why it's important. But if it's not your life, what are you explaining? A theory? A plan that somebody made up and decided that's how children should live? So, for example, you send the child to school, and the child is studying subjects that have nothing to do with your life. Maybe you never even studied those subjects. So what's a child supposed to make of this? It's very confusing. They see your life, but you're not letting them live that. You're telling them to go live a different life. That can't be good. It's like saying, I've got my life, go find your own. It's not nice. We're supposed to invite our children into our lives. And we're supposed to live a life that is not only right and good for the children, but so compelling that the child will want to be part of your life, will envy you, and hope to be like you. That, I guess, is an ideal situation. When you ask a child, what do you want to be when you grow up? And the child says, I want to be just like my daddy. That's perfect. Well, maybe not. It's good. Actually, you want your child to say, I want to be better than my daddy. We all want our children to be better than us. But better at the same thing, not living some other life that we're not familiar with. Unless you think that your life is not worth living. And you hope your child will find a life that is worth living. Well, that's a very depressing thought. For your child, too. It's an amazing thing that the attachment of children to their parents often cause children who could have a better life than their parents to refuse. Unconsciously, they refuse to be more successful than their parents, out of loyalty to the parents. So they will be talented, they will be capable, they'll have a business that can be far more successful than their parents, and they'll sabotage it. out of loyalty to the father. Since the father was never that successful, I can't insult him by being more successful than my father. So when parents say to their children, I want for you all the things I never had, not a good message. Not a good message. It's almost like saying, I don't want you to be like me. Parents actually say that too. I want you to go to school and get good grades because I don't want you to end up like me. That is not a good message. Children want to stay loyal. Children are a continuation. To go start your own life, find your own world, live your own existence, that's not nice. It's not friendly. That's like throwing them out of the house. So raising children actually means make sure that the life you're living is good for your children. Somebody once asked me, there are so many gray areas, even when you know all the laws and all the mitzvahs, the do's and the don'ts, there's still so many gray areas. How do you know what's right when you come into the gray area? And I suggested that you keep a diary. What you're about to do, will you share that with your granddaughter when she's 5? And she says, tell me about your life. Will you be ashamed or proud to tell your 5-year-old granddaughter that this is what you did? If you're ashamed to tell your granddaughter, then don't do it. If you don't want your granddaughter to do the same, then don't do it. Because if it's not good enough for her, why is it good enough for you? So this is how we raise children. You raise children by living a life that the children will want to and should follow. And then, are you a great communicator? Maybe not. Can you explain things well so that the child can? Maybe not. Do you have a lot of time to spend with the child? Maybe not. Won't do any harm. The child sees you living and wants it. It's almost a no-brainer. And then raising children is not a project, not something you need time to do. You're doing it all the time. So when people say, you have to have, what is it called? Quality time with your children. And if you have 4 children, where are you going to find time? As if raising children is a project for which you have to take time out from your life in order to raise them. But it shouldn't be that way. It's not a project, and you don't take out time from life to give your kids a lecture. It's not necessary. So, I guess in some way, if we're doing everything right, we shouldn't even be conscious of the fact that we're raising children. It goes with life. It is life. The school that doesn't reinforce what your life is all about can now be very confusing and very damaging. So if you've given up raising your children, you've turned it over to the schools, you've turned it over to the books, that can't succeed, because children will never accept it. They will not sever their existence from your existence and willingly live a life that isn't yours. And if they do that, they will regret it. Always. In the end, that cannot work. So the generation gap, back in the 60s, we were so excited about it. It felt like liberation. It felt like progress. It felt like a brave new world. We now realize it's none of the above. Generation gap is too painful. Nobody really accepts it in the end because nobody wants that. Nobody wants to be severed from their ancestors, from their history, from who they really are. And to have your existence begin when you start school, that's way too shallow. So, get a life, not a good message. Get a life, which means there's nothing in your past that's worth repeating. There's nothing in your past worth keeping. Go start a new life. Your existence begins now. Well, then you're a mushroom. Mushrooms have no roots. To be rootless like that is alienation. And alienation doesn't feel good because it's not the way it's meant to be. We need to be connected. We need to be connected not only to our parents, but to our grandparents and great-grandparents. And as far back as we can remember and preserve who we are, what our identity is, the stronger and the better we will be. If you enjoyed this conversation or this topic, and you're looking for more information, or you want to hear it again from another angle, there's a way to do that. And that is in this book. It's all there. Order it from Amazon. You can read it, reread it, and share it. We have a Sunday night program for VIPs that you might be interested in. It's informal. It's questions and answers. It's conversation. It's really relaxed, it's really pleasant, enjoyable, informative, and kind of community-like. It's a Sunday night program, there's a Wednesday morning program for the VIPs, and there's a Wednesday night program. All of it, just conversation, casual, laid back, unscripted. So join us, take a look. Click the link below and see which of the three suits you best, and join us for some enjoyable conversation.